Hey guys, this is Adrianne. I am a mom and wife, and I have two homeschooling kiddos who are currently 14 years old, and we just finished up our 8th grade year. We were pandemic homeschoolers, so I think that's like 6 years now that we've been homeschooling, 5 or 6 years. But today I want to go through this past year's read alouds that we did and give you a rating of either hit or miss, and I will also give you a numbered rating out of 5. So here's our hit or misses. Okay, I just have a stack of books here. I don't think they're in any kind of particular order, but I did put them on the shelves. When we're done with them, I just keep them on one of our bookshelves, and then so I know what they need or what we actually read. If there are books, of course. If they're library books, then I won't have those. Okay, I know that this year we did a World War II unit for history in the beginning, and then we continued on to medieval times. And kids were just interested in World War II, so that's why we started off with that first. So we tried to read The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I think I said that name right. This was a miss for us. We didn't even finish this book. I don't know if it's just because it was a read aloud. I never read this book, not even in high school, but I think now they do read this book in school. As a school book, it's pretty, yeah, like on par with the books that we read in school. Like most of them were probably misses. But my kid, we barely got to maybe around here. They're like 50, 60 pages in, and then they just asked to stop reading it. They were not interested. They didn't get a lot of the and then it's not jokes, but like just like even in the first pages, my daughter was just like, I don't understand, like, why is it written like this? She didn't like how it was written. I tried to even give the, like, because it's written in Deaf's point of view, right? So I tried to give Deaf like an actual voice, but they just weren't into it, so we just stopped reading. So this was a miss. I also bought a unit study to go along with that, so we only did a few things out of that unit study, and then we just tossed it to the side. Oh, so no rating for that one at all since we didn't finish. So since we just stopped reading that book, I had this one on my shelves, so I pulled this one out to go with what we were reading. Actually, I don't think this was first. I think this is the book we pulled out next. So Number the Stars by Lois Lowry, which I had on the shelves. This one they enjoyed. Well, I wouldn't say enjoyed, but they, tolerated it. And they gave this one, I didn't see it on my list. Sorry. This one was a hit. They gave it 4 stars out of 5, so that's a hit. It's just a basic chapter book. It's probably more for like 4th, 5th grade, but since it was short notice. And then since, obviously this book is a lot, oops, sorry, I knocked the camera. Obviously, since this book would have taken us a lot longer, I needed another book, so I reread this one, and then I had this one on my shelf as well, so we read this one too. This one is Ellie, My True Story of the Holocaust by Ellie Berkowitz Gross. So this one is a autobiography of what she remembers when she was a small child. So we read this one, and this one they gave also a hit, and they gave it a 4. I guess I would just keep going along with that. We also read Who Was Anne Frank? Instead of reading Anne Frank's diary, we watched a DVD. I don't know. I think it was like a 2000. It's not the TV version. It was a movie version. But it was a BBC movie. So we watched that version. I got it from the library, and they enjoyed that. So we gave that like 4 stars. So we read this first, and then we watched the movie. And the Who Was Anne Frank, they gave a 4. Also a hit, so a 4. You know, the basic Who Was book. So we have, these were hits. Let me move my stack so I know when at the end I can tell you how many we had for each. Okay, so out of those, I don't know now where we are, so I'll just grab from the top. Okay, we read Archimedes and the Door of Science for our science. We did Guest Hollow's Actions and Reactions this year for an introduction to chemistry and physics. Since in high school they're going to be taking both, I thought that would be a good thing to take in 8th grade. Since we've done like general science since the beginning, basically, since we've been homeschooling. This one, I think was a hit. I think actually they gave it 5 stars, which I was very impressed with, especially my son. He even said 5, so, and he rates no book 5. So this was a hit. Okay, also for science, oh, I still have a little sticky on that one. We read Get to Know Your Universe, Science Comics, The Periodic Table of Elements. This one was rather long. Like there's a lot of information on each page, even though it's like a graphic novel. It took us, I think, a week or more to read this. This one they gave, I got my little, a 4, so that was also a hit. We actually gave it a 4. These are good. I think maybe not so much as a read aloud, but if they were to read it to themselves, it would have been better. But since I have 2 kiddos in the same grade and they wouldn't be able to read it at the same time, so I just read it to them. Unless I bought 2 books and I didn't want to do that. Okay, another book we read for science was the graphic novel version of I Survived the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, obviously for physics. This one was maybe I should have kept them in order because I don't know where it is on my list. Oh, there it is. It is a hit. It was a 4. They rated it a 4. I thought we were going to have a lot more misses than hits. Okay, another one for World War II, The Amazing World War II Stories. These are 4 incredible true tales. So originally I had a couple of separate books at the library, and then I found this one at, I think I bought this one off of Book Outlet, I believe. It actually has 4 complete graphic novels in one. So we have the Navajo Code Talkers, Night Witches at War, The Unbreakable Zamperini, and U.S. Ghost Army. So 4 comics in one book. We only read the Code Talkers, The Witches at War, and the Ghost Army. I don't think we got to the Unbreakable Zamperini, but we did watch a DVD about Zamperini. But I can't remember which one we watched. If Unbroken is about him, then that's what we watched. But I can't remember if that's correct. So this one, they gave 4 stars. Because it was a collection. Okay. This was also for science, The Hindenburg Disaster. This is also a graphic novel. This one had a lot less words, so we finished this in one sitting. This one, I saw it just a little while ago. They gave a 4, so it was a hit. Okay. In medieval times, we went through Vikings. I had found this at Goodwill, I believe I picked this up from. It says Spotlight on the Vikings. It's basically just a mini encyclopedia, and it's just all about the Vikings. Kind of reminds me of like something you would pick up from Usborne. So the Vikings, I think we gave a 4, so a hit. It's really not a read aloud though, it's more of an information text, but it's in the books we read. Okay, this one was for our World War II unit, Fighting for Justice, Fred Korematsu Speaks Up. So this one we read towards the end of our unit because this is more in the modern times, but talking about what happened to his family in in World War II with the Japanese internment camps. So this was a nonfiction book, but I read all of it and we gave this a 5 stars. So it even goes all the way to like 9/11. Talks about all kinds of things. This one is really good. Has Better World Books I bought it at. There you go. I thought I got that at Goodwill. So 5 stars, so a hit. Okay. Then we also read A Solid Truth About States of Matter with Max Axiom for our science. And also a graphic novel. These actually have a lot of information also, but not as much as the science comics, but still, like, I think we split this up in 2 days and read that. And this one they gave, I cannot find it on my list. Well, Hindenburg periodic table. Maybe I forgot to mark it as read on our Goodreads. I think we rated it a 3, so this was probably more of a miss. It did have a lot of information, but I kind of remember it being not so good. Okay, we also picked up the new book in the Percy Jackson series. So this is book, what, 6, I think? The Chalice of the Gods. So this one he wrote in yeah, so this would be book 6. Yeah, this one came out 2023. So right before like that summer before school year started. So we read that, and the kids actually rated it not so high actually, which I was surprised. They would have said it was a miss. They gave it a 3, I think a 3.5 is what they rated it. To them, it was not as exciting as the other Percy Jackson books. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. But this was a miss then. Yeah, because we also even picked up book 7 and they didn't ask to read it after we read 6. Okay, so another science book was The Sun by Seymour Simon. It's a picture book about that, and this one. This one was a 4, so a hit. Running out of spot in my hits. Let me slide over my misses. This one also was a hit, which we actually rated a 5. What's smaller than a pygmy shrew? For a book that's supposed to be for very small children, this was... They retained way more from reading this book than the chapter that we had in our science book. So we gave that a 5 stars. This one we read for our World War II unit, Baseball Saved Us by Ken Mochizuki and illustrated by Dom Lee. This one was a miss. I thought it was going to give us a little bit more insight into what it was like living in a Japanese internment, but it was mostly just about the baseball. I think the Gary Soto's book about baseball probably would have been a bit of a better read for them. So this was a miss, 3 stars. For the younger crowd, yeah, anybody, you know, like elementary age, yeah, I think this would have been great. Okay, this is also for science, The Story of Snow, The Science of Winter's Wonder. So exactly what it says, a story all about snowflakes. And the story of snow we gave a 4-star rating. So it was a hit. The bronze bow was actually my son's pick. I gave him I gave both of them. I showed them a few books for the beginning of our unit for medieval times. It was the bronze bow or something by Avi. Now I can't. The lead of cross of lead, something like that. Sorry, I can't remember the title, but it was that or that. And they picked this one to read, and they gave this one, if I can find it, I think it's called The Cross of Lead. They gave this one I think I'm going to say a 4, but I know I have it here. Oh, I found the States of Matter. Yeah, they rated it a 3, so it was a miss. Okay. There it is, the bronze bow. Oh, they rated it a miss. It was a 3. They gave it a 3, so a miss. I enjoyed it though, and I think my daughter actually gave it a little bit higher. She probably said 4, and he probably said like 2. So I gave it a 3. Okay, the story of salt, an amazing role of salt in world history. This we also read for science. I like that it had a timeline in the back. Give you a quick flip through of that. And the story of salt was a hit. We rated it a 5. We read this over, I think, a week, maybe even a week and a half. This one we did not complete entirely, also for science. Team Moon, how 400,000 people landed Apollo 11 on the moon. We just took certain sections and read them. There. I like the fact that it had some real photographs. This is a splash landing. Footprint. Or supposed footprint. So Team Moon, they gave well, I must not have marked it complete, probably because we didn't actually read the entire thing. I would give it a 3.5 to 4, so maybe a miss. It had a lot of information, but it was more textbooky, like just matter-of-factly kind of thing, so 4. Even though it had a lot of quotes and things from the astronauts. Okay. The Bat Scientists, we also read for science when we were doing our sound unit on there. The kids actually like these scientist type books, and it was a hit. They gave it a 4. I thought it was pretty interesting to learn about bats a little bit more. That guy's a little weird looking. So that was a hit. We read A Midwife's Apprentice by Karen Cushman. Midwife's Apprentice, we gave... There's no pictures, it's just a chapter book. Short chapters though. So, I'm pretty sure we read that in like a week. Maybe even, yeah, I think a week. I tried to finish, like, even if it's a shorter book, I try to stretch it out for the entire week. Or I would have to put 2 books in because I like to stay on topic that same week about the same thing. The Midwife's Apprentice, it was a miss for them. They gave it a 3. I enjoyed it though. Okay, 1001 Inventions and Awesome Facts from Muslim Civilization. This was for our history. also history, midwife's apprentice for medieval times. Okay, so this one is just an infographic type of book. So yes, I read it out loud, and I just read a few separate sections when it was talking about those kinds of things in our history. So like this, I didn't read any of these probably. The 50 facts on farms. This one, I would have just left it open if we were talking about kind of things like that, and then they could peruse it as they pleased. So, but ones like this, I would read a few off the page of each side. Yeah, I didn't read any like this, like these spreads. I may have looked ahead and the bolded ones, and then if they were like interesting enough, I would have read those. Or went along with what we were talking about in history. So it's a lot of facts, but for kids who really like infographics and just, you know, knowing things like that, it's an excellent book. I would say 4 or 5. So I definitely hit if your kid is into that. My kids not so much unless they're really interested in the topic. So we gave that a 3, so that was like a miss for us. This one this one was for our World War II unit, The Bracelet by Yoshika Yoshida and Joanna Yardley. I really enjoyed this one. It also even has an afterword about, you know, just some facts. So this one is pretty quick read because it has a photo and then, you know, words on one side and picture on the other side. So this one I think we read in 2. I just split the book in half and half. And the bracelet we rated a 4, so that was a hit. The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. Before getting into this book, I had no idea what this book was. I just seen it on a lot of reading lists, and I read, you know, just the back, which is very small. But it actually was pretty good. I don't know if they have a movie, but they should if they don't. This would be, it's kind of like sweet and a little like heartwarming. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Toy Story and like The Wild Robot, kind of like a mixture of that. And I think we gave it the kids really enjoyed it too. It's one of the last books we read this year. I gave it a 4. So that was a hit. Okay, One Tiny Turtle. This is when we were, I'm not really sure why we read this one. Probably for science, but this one is, it has a story, and then in the big words is like this story. So for like if you had different aged kids and you were reading in a family style, and if they were all young, you would read like just the bolded print. And then for the older kids, you have this smaller print that gives you actual science information. Like turtle eggs in warm sand can be ready to hatch in 6 weeks. If the sand is cool, they can take 3 weeks longer. But then there's a story also going along. So I really like that about this book. And these are read and wonder books, and I've never, this is the first time I've seen a read and wonder book that I've had. That I think I picked this up at like Goodwill or something. But I really enjoyed this, and I wonder if there's like what other ones they had. If my kids were younger, I would grab them all now, but they're too old already for these. But we gave this a 4. That was a hit. My daughter really likes sea turtles. Okay, we read A Medieval Feast by Alakai for medieval history. This is a Reading Rainbow book, if you remember that. So this one also has some actual nonfiction information in the back, and then their story. I really like the like how they did like little sections like this. I don't know. My kids, it's kind of like a seek and find. Like, can you find strawberry in the picture? That's what they said. It reminded them of. I don't know if it really was like that. We didn't actually look at it like that. It could be. So we rated A Medieval Feast. I don't know where it is. I guess there's another one that I didn't, I forgot to put on Goodreads. I thought it was a good story. I'm gonna give it a hit, and I'm gonna give it a 3. I mean a 4. Sorry, a 4. This one is for much younger kids. It's just something I had on the shelves we already owned, so I threw it in one day. Knights in Shining Armor by Gail Gibbons for our medieval history unit. So but it does have some good information, like at the end about different stories you may have heard, or different people you may have heard of different stories in medieval times. So I did like that. Kind of connected our our history along with it. And it has a lot of information here about the knights. So we read this when we were talking mostly about knights in our history. So I would, even they were older, I'd still give this one a 4. Just for the content. Okay, another chapter book, The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson. This one I just threw in because we had a week that company was coming and I didn't want to do a full-on lesson, so we just threw this book in because I had it on the shelf, and I had a excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. It went away. We had a novel study to go along with it, so we spent the week doing that, the first, like the 3 days week that we had on this. This was towards the end of the year, and we rated this a 3. So for them it was a miss. I enjoyed it. I would have said a 4. I thought it was a very good story, but they gave it a 3, so that's their rating. So I'll put it in the miss pile. The Silk Route, 7,000 Miles of History by John S. Major and illustrated by Stephen Pfizer. So gives you a little, like, stops along the Silk Road, like names of cities, like this one's in China, things like that. Byzantium, Baghdad, and then a little bit of story on each one. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was pretty interesting. I wanted another book, they just didn't have it at the library, so we went with this one. I got this one on Thrift Books, and I'm glad that I did, because the other book just was never available. Somebody had it checked out the whole entire time that we were studying on the Silk Road, so we just substituted with this one. The other one was more for their age, though, a little bit more information, but I got it afterwards. I went ahead and perused it, and I would, maybe if we come back to it during world history, I'll get that book, or try to get that one again. So the Silk Route, not the Sick Route. Silk Route. It was a 3, so I miss. The Making of a Knight by Patrick O'Brien. This one again has some lovely pictures. I think the illustrations are beautiful in this one. And this is one of the only medieval books that had like different helmets for different people would wear. The only other thing we ever had that had different helmets like this was the actual encyclopedia for knights. The knights, that's the only one that ever showed that. So I like that it included that in a picture book. And it hit on a lot of topics that all history programs hit on, like falconry and the knighthood and jousting and the different kind of weapons. So this one was a good one. That was one of the last things we also read for the medieval times, and we gave it a 4, so it was a hit. Well, here's another one for, actually we have a few here. I'm just gonna go do these picture books in order because I think they're all mostly for World War II. This is Franklin and Winston, A Christmas That Changed the World by Douglas Wood and illustrated by Barry Moser. This is a nonfiction picture book. I like that the heart was also nicely done. You don't really need the dust jacket. So this is a nonfiction picture book about Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt, President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now this one, I forgot to put this one on Goodreads too, but I'm pretty sure we gave this one a 4. They thought it was informational, a little bit funny, quirky, and it was a good read. So that we gave a 4. This one is one I had on my shelves already, since I think even for me, this was like one of my books. This is Journey by Aaron Becker. So this is a wordless story, one of the very few wordless stories that I actually have, and the kids actually enjoyed this one a lot. We mostly talked about colors. So we kind of, even though this was for history, I used it as a little bit for art and for even like in movies and in books, how color plays a big part on understanding what they're talking about. They had fun just coming up with their own little story to go along with this one. So it was a good break, like from such a sad, you know, the history was heavy, and this one was a good little, from World War II to starting medieval times, kind of like this. They really liked the castle too. So this was a 4. So it was a hit. One more science book here was Stella Luna by Janelle Cannon. This one is a book we had that we used to have. It got so ruined, I found another one at Goodwill, a hardback one. So we used to read this a few times throughout the year when they were younger. They really liked Stella Luna. My daughter more really liked Stella Luna. So we read this when we were doing our bats unit. She remembered it, so she liked that she actually remembered the book. She was like, I remember that book. So it's a hit. We read this Usborne book, Stories of Thor. Let me see if we rated that one. They said it was a miss. They weren't too into this one. They liked that it had pictures, but other than that, they were. It's probably because they've heard so much about Thor, and then there's Marvel movies about Thor, and that, you know, they found it unrealistic, and like, that's not how it was. So they gave this one a 3, so it was a miss. Okay, and this is one of the last books we read this year, Among the Hidden. It didn't go along with anything of our history or science. This was just another one like Percy Jackson that we just threw in there, and for language arts, basically. Did we do a unit on this one? We may have done a unit. If not a unit that I bought, I just, you know, like made up a unit, like had some vocab, and which I did with ChatGPT. I just told it, using this book, give me some vocab words from like chapter by chapter with answers, and then do me a test for those vocab words, and it did it. So I just copied those and used that for my kids. So I enjoyed this. I would have liked to read the next book. I never read this in school. And I thought that there was a movie about this, but I guess there's not. But I think it would be good to make a movie out of this too. Let me see what they rated this. I'm pretty sure it was a hit. Yeah, they gave this a 4. I think my daughter said 4.5 and my son said 4. So that's one of the books he actually rated high. So that is it for all the books I actually have on hand. We did read a lot of other books that we got from the library. I don't think I had any more actual like chapter books that we read from the library. I think I had all the purchased of those. Oh, The Turtle of Oman we read. We gave that a 4-star. It was a hit. That was a chapter book. And that actually has a part 2. Let's see if there's another chapter book that we read. Oh, Bayou Magic. We read Bayou Magic earlier, around this Christmas time. Like right before Christmas. We gave that a 4, so that was a hit. It's about, it's actually a really good book about like Louisiana and like mermaids, and it's a fantasy book. Oh, we also read A Monster Caused by Patrick Ness. We gave that a 5-star rating, and that is actually a book I am going to purchase. And we watched the movie afterwards, and they preferred the book over the movie, though they liked the monster and how he looked in the movie. And then for the monster calls, I pulled off, I think I got some unit study from TPT for that. Teachers Pay Teachers. Oh yes, we also read Odd and the Frost Giants from the library as well. They also rated that a 4, so that was a hit. Here's my Goodreads noise. So that's why I'm like looking everywhere. So I think that was it though. I think those are all the picture books. I mean, not picture books, the chapter books that we read. Yep, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like videos like this and more content, please like and subscribe. I do have a lot of planning type videos coming up, like my curriculum picks for 9th grade and all the stuff we got to go along with those. So please continue watching, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.